Today's episode is brought to you by the Pre-Market Movers. Check us out at thepremarketmovers.com. We are your number one source for everything Wall Street related, broadcasting to you live on social audio platforms worldwide. You can catch us on Clubhouse as well as Twitter Spaces, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out online at thepremarketmovers.com. That's thepremarketmovers.com.
Well, Parrish, I started young, actually. I actually had a grandfather, my mother's father, who was an entrepreneur in the Jim Crow South. He practically built the black side of Monticello, Georgia. There's a street name for him because of what he accomplished in that town called Sanders Heights. My grandfather was Lexington Sanders. Built a funeral home, a motel, grocery store, the community center. He built houses. Approximately 85% of the homes between where the funeral home was and the railroad tracks, which on the other side of the tracks, of course, that's where the white people live, in Monticello. He started me to saving money when I was 4 years old. I was inspired by him to be an entrepreneur. He was like a legend in my family. He would be a legend in many Black families at that time because it was difficult for Black men or women, for that matter, to be entrepreneurs in America when you had a system of racism, a system that the government, the federal government, was involved in. Literally stealing wealth from Black people that had the audacity to try to accumulate wealth. And so I realized as a young man that my grandfather was a unique person. He had accomplished something that was truly phenomenal. And I was just so pleased to be his grandson, to be inspired by him, to want to do bigger and better things. And that's how I come to be sitting with you now today, motivated by his life and what he did and the obstacles that he had to overcome. It made it easy for me to feel like, hey, no excuses. Just get it done. Just make it happen. My dear grandmother, who actually raised me, my parents were divorced when I was only one, and my older brother, who was 1 year older, born the same month, he and I went to our grandmother's house, and to be raised by her, and she used to say, I can hear her say it now, Parrish. She used to say, in every life, some rain must fall. Well, it's true. Some rain will fall. And you may not want it to fall, but however, without the rain, the crops won't grow. Without problems, you won't learn how to solve problems. Without a hard time, you won't appreciate a good time. So I just learned to understand that, hey, look, what you want to accomplish, you're going to have some fall downs. You're going to make some mistakes. The key is to let the mistake be a learning experience. Don't make a fatal mistake, obviously. Let it be a learning experience. Don't make the same mistake twice. Adjust, move forward again, and absolutely never quit. Never quit, ever quit. Perseverance is what got any successful person to where they wanted to get to. Perseverance.
That's simple. Perseverance.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's what
You got your grandfather guided you through this process. And in the worst possible time, because if you look today, no one could imagine what you went through or what your grandfather went through. Now, as being an entrepreneur, you knew this your whole life. What were some of the obstacles you had to overcome growing up as a young man in this segregated world that you were in at that particular time?
Well, I grew up poor. I talking about segregated world. The first time I was called a nigger was in the first grade in Catholic school. I experienced going to a different school every year up until I got to middle school. That was the first time I went to the same school from one year to the next. I experienced moving from Detroit to Chicago, where my father was from, back to Detroit. I experienced going from public school to Catholic school to public school, Detroit to Chicago, Chicago to Detroit, which meant I had to get in a lot of fights because when you move like that and you're fair complected like I am, and you're physically small, I'm only 5'8", someone's gonna try you. Some bully somewhere gonna step to you, and you're gonna have to learn to deal with that. And when you go to Catholic school, the bully may be white, and you're gonna have to deal with that. And when you experience living in public housing, which I did in Detroit and in Chicago, you're gonna get tested. Of course, the public housing was always black kids testing you, but you're gonna get tested. And so I learned the best solution for that test is to not ask questions. Are you doing this to me? No. The solution is a response. A response that causes that person to pay such a price that they would rather just move on to something a little easier than to deal with you when you just refuse to be bullied. So as a young man, that was what I had to deal with. But I always felt that this inspiration that my grandfather provided me, this belief that I could be somebody, I could accomplish something, and it could be normal. This is my grandfather. And also my father. My father, he was one of the first electricians at Ford Motor Company. He quit the job because he wanted to be a musician. He quit the job to pursue his passion. And he was a good musician. He was a great musician. Lived his life playing music and just doing a little electrical work on the side. And that definitely helped me to see the value of being yourself, pursuing your passion with a passion. And so obstacles to me were just bumps to get smoothed over. I ate them for lunch. I wanted something and I went for it, no matter what.
Your family played the deep root into your process now. You have a very long journey Was there any other major influences that helped you strengthen your resolve in entrepreneurship?
Well, yeah, there certainly were. I was fortunate to grow up in Southwest Detroit during a time when the homes typically had a husband and a wife in them. And I was a little athlete, so the men paid attention to me because I was a good ball player. That meant I was mentored by coaches because I was a good baseball player and a good basketball player. And also, my next door neighbor in the house that my mother eventually bought was the assistant auditor general for the state of Michigan, Richard Fletcher. And his wife just happened to have been my kindergarten teacher. So they paid attention to me. And Mr. Fletcher is the man that said to me, look, because, you know, I had a tendency because I played ball, some of the guys that I ran with, well, they weren't the best students. They were the best ball players, but they weren't the best students. And some of them would be the go for bad type guy. And Mr. Fletcher noticed that I was hanging around guys like that. And he said, look, go to college and major in accounting. Why did he say accounting? Well, he was the assistant auditor general for the state of Michigan. And so I did. Major in accounting, that means I have to go to business school. So I did. That's where I began to get a formal education about business. But of course, our education system teaches you how to be a good employee, not necessarily how to operation. Caused me to look at the curriculum and the things that I was learning with the mindset for, well, how would I use this information to own a business? And I actually started my first business when I was a senior in college.
What was that business and what was the impact it made in your life?
Well, I started a health food store and restaurant. Before the health food craze really, I was on the cutting edge of that movement in the United States. I went to a health food convention in Las Vegas, and I decided I was going to start a health food store and restaurant. And I decided that I would start it in Tucson, Arizona. Why Tucson, Arizona? Well, because there were a lot of people that would move there for health reasons. People back east, older people retiring, people that were concerned with health would move to a place like Tucson, Arizona. I opened the business there on the north side of the city, just before the foothills, where a lot of people that had discretionary income lived. And so my business did quite well. And the University of Arizona, which is in Tucson, had hired its first Black basketball coach, Fred Snowden, who was the basketball coach at Northwestern High School, which was our arch rival. I went to Southwestern High School. And so Fred Snowden knew me. And he had begun to recruit kids from Detroit. In particular, he recruited Tommy Williams, who played at Pershing. And during the summer, I would play with Tommy at Peterson Park in Northwest Detroit. So we knew one another. And then when I saw him and he saw me, we instantly Arizona. And so Fred saw me there, and Fred was beginning to have some problems with the alumni because of him recruiting these Black kids. And some of them, like the kids he recruited from Philly, were dating white girls. And the alumni didn't like it. So he was getting some pushback. So you leveraged me, had me on his radio and television show quite often, because he will say, well, this is a jock, he's a ball player, and he owns this business. And it blew my business up. It was like free advertising for me, because he would have me on there more than once. I was on there often, where he would be interviewing me. And so it gave me a chance to just quite naturally talk about who I was, where I came from, why I came, and my business.
Whoa. So it just transpired naturally. It was something you was already doing.
Yes.
You saw a need in the market.
I did.
And you used your likeness and know-how in your network to build off that. Whoa.
I did. And that's again pursuing your passion. My step grandfather died.
Yeah.
And a building in Southwest Detroit was named in his honor. And my family asked me to receive it for the family. And I did. And after I spoke to Representative McNeely and told him, hey, Mac, I'd like to do business with the Michigan State Lottery. And quite naturally, he said he would help me in whatever way he could. And he did. And so I began to bid on contracts. I bid twice and I didn't win. And I told him about my results and he continued to guide me. And the third time I won. I won a contract to produce T-shirts for the Michigan State Lottery. The lottery put up half of the money, which was all of the money that I needed to produce the T-shirts. And it was like 100,000, something like that. Quite a large order. I just basically played the middle on it. I went to Troy, Michigan, where there was a imprinted apparel factory. And I contracted them to actually produce. I designed the shirt, they produced it. And the lottery said they needed me to also capture some data. And it just so happens that right behind Southwestern High School was a business that was the business that they were in. So I went there and contracted them to provide that service. And I had a very successful time of it. And that led me to, now that I was doing that, the business name was Teeze, T-E-E-Z-E. I went to being in Detroit, the auto industry. I went and negotiated licensing agreements with the auto industry to produce imprinted apparel for them, what they would sell in their, and then from there, I went to Macy's and Kmart.
Okay, we can do this now. Okay, now you were at the point, you just got the contract for the auto industry.
Yeah, I had a licensing agreement with Lamborghini and with General Motors. So I took the Lamborghini apparel with Macy's and the other lines to Kmart. So I started with simply producing some T-shirts for the Michigan State Lottery. And I grew that into an imprinted apparel business that included leather jackets and caps and things of that nature, and had them in Macy's and in Kmart. And so I've had this philosophy of, okay, get your foot in the door and then walk around the room. Follow your passion, follow your dreams, see where the other opportunities are. And so that's what I did. I had Macy's and Kmart.
Happy.
It wasn't my passion, Parrish, to do T-shirts for family reunions or anything like that. I've always thought about business corporate, not mom and pop. I've never wanted a mom and pop type business. That's like giving yourself a job. I didn't want a job. I wanted a machine that would produce results, financial results. I wanted a systematic way of doing it that didn't require necessarily for me to be the one doing it. And it's always worked out that way for me. Most of the businesses that I have had were, I had technicians that had the skill. I just had the business savvy, how to finance it, how to run it, how to market it, how to be an entrepreneur and use leverage. Leverage money, leverage people, leverage markets, leverage everything you can.
That's interesting you say that, because with that way of thinking, follow your passion and technicians to help you solve that problem.
Well, yeah, you're going to have, for example, Parrish, I've never played a video game in my life. Never. Not Pac-Man, none. It's just not, I'm just not inclined to want to do anything, something like that. So I'm not technologically savvy as a result. But you have people that's all they fool around with things like that in technology. That's all that they do. But however, they don't have the entrepreneur mindset. So what I do is just like I did when I was playing ball. Hey, I'm not trying to play every position. I'm just playing my position. And I'm trying to play with people that can play their position. And then we play our positions together so that we can win. That is business. Same thing. Have a game plan, have a way you play the game. Don't just play, have a system for playing. That's how you can have a winning tradition. Have a system where you can just plug people into the system. We had a winning tradition at Southwestern High School. And you had to, if you wanted to play, you had to be a part of that tradition. And that's how I ran businesses, same way. A system.
So the key to your success is the system. So I'm gonna go off to the side a little bit. Like, let's tap into the system. Like, entrepreneurship is big now, especially in the Black community. There's been an increase of Black businesses. How could a brand new entrepreneur approach on building a system rather than just building another job?
Well, if we're talking about a Black entrepreneur, which I can talk about very comfortably because that's what I am. The first system that you're going to need is it's going to require some capital to start a business, or even to acquire a business, which I've acquired more than I've started. I like the advantages of acquiring over starting, especially for a Black person, especially for a Black person like me, that you came from intergenerational poverty, except for my maternal grandfather, who died when I was only 4. So you're talking about a situation where you don't have capital that you need to actually move on that idea. You can't go to your uncle. You can't go to the man down the street. It's not in your community. The capital is not, nor is the culture anymore in the Black community. It's coming back now with the younger people in the Black community, but my generation that benefited from what Dr. Martin Luther King accomplished in integration, we kind of like went in the wrong direction. Black people owned almost every business in Southwest Detroit when I was growing up before integration. And then with integration, all of that changed. And now they own the church, the barbershop, the beauty salon. And this is pretty much all true all over America. So the culture has shifted in our community. The money, you don't have angel want to own a business. And actually what I want to do is buy a business. I want to buy a white-owned business that's successful, and it became successful benefiting from white privilege. So that's what I began doing, buying a white-owned business and leveraging the assets of that business to get the money that I needed to buy that business.
Now, okay, my wheels are really turning now. So, if to sum it up, you're saying, in a sense, it's easier to just buy a business that's already running as opposed to starting your own.
When it comes to having the capital that you need,
Okay,
it's easier. And I tell you, if your business is real estate, if what you want to acquire is an apartment building, for example, which an apartment building, technically, the way I see it, is a business. Your customers are the tenants. Here again, you're buying cash flow. You're buying cash flow, and you benefit from the fact that, well, where's the collateral? Right there. It's the building. And that's highly leverageable in the United States of America. Real estate can be borrowed against. It can be leveraged by any bank. All kinds of financial institutions will lend against real estate. So being Black in America, coming from intergenerational poverty, I had to look at real estate, and I did. I started buying apartment buildings in the 70s. Easier to finance, easier to get the money that you're going to need to be in business. A lot easier. Buying companies that are already in existence, that are successful already, that have tax returns to prove it, that have assets, that's easier too than starting a business. I'm not against starting a business. I've done it more than once. I'm just telling you some of the intricacies and what's a little more difficult to do.
We talking to business owners or respective business owners, entrepreneurs. So they hear something like that and they probably say, hey, maybe I should start looking for an apartment building. But I don't have any money, nor my credit may not be the best. Is this still plausible? Is there some steps I should take before searching?
Well, there certainly are, but I would just say this. Look, don't have excuses. Don't give yourself that option. Don't have excuses. If there's something stopping you, then that's what you must fix. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. Now, I said real estate is highly leverageable. You know, I have a business partner, WOWstrather. We both grew up in Southwest Detroit. He just grew up in a different section of Southwest Detroit. He went to Western, I went to Southwestern. He's done over $2 billion in real estate deals without using his own money. And when he started, he didn't have any money. So he had really no choice. If he wanted to be in the game, he had to figure out how to do it without money. And he did. And then I bought my first buildings from him in the 70s, the mid 70s. And when he did have money, he just realized that, well, if I tie my money up in the building, then I don't have it anymore, which means I can't grow. I can't buy another building until I save some more money. And I don't want to grow that slowly. I want to grow at the pace of finding another deal to do. And I don't want to be stopped when I find that other deal because of lack of money. So I'm going to keep doing deals without my money. And that's how he's done it. And that's how I do it. I look for an opportunity. I look for a deal, use leverage. I use other sources of money to acquire real estate. In an apartment building, not difficult to do, as long as it's not too small. It's more difficult, ironically, to finance a small building like 5 units, 6 units. That is much more difficult to finance than 100 units. 100 units is much easier to finance than 5 or 6. And I realize a person would think, well, they would look at the 5 or 6 feeling like, well, I don't have that much money. But we don't look at it like that. We say, look at 100 and structure the deal properly where you don't have to have money, not yours.
Staying on the apartment buildings and leveraging apartment buildings, and I always like to start from ground zero. The bigger the deal, the easier to finance. Who are some people you should align yourself with in order to get this deal done, in order to leverage it properly? Like you said, there are a number of financing. How do we search for the financing?
Well, it's one of my businesses. That's what it does. It arranges financing. In fact, I do all of my partner WOWstrather's financing. I do all of the financing for the students at Strather Academy. We teach the next generation of developers at Strather Academy. And so I would say what you should do is come to us. Come to Strather Academy to learn how to be a real estate developer and create wealth with real estate without using your own money. Come to my business, Easy Financial Group, to have the financing arranged in the state-of-the-art way. That's what I would do. You would be mentored by 2 men that are the same age, from the same neighborhood, basically. Both have 3 daughters, ironically, and both have a passion for building legacy, a passion for creating wealth in the Black community, a passion for teaching the next generation everything that we know about creating wealth with real estate and business ownership. I would say, come to us and we will help you live your dream. We will help you to change the paradigm in your family, starting with you. What paradigm am I talking about? I'm sorry, change the status quo and have a paradigm. The status quo being that we are the poorest, the sickest, the most locked up group in America. Is that going to be for forever? Well, it will unless we change it. It's not in the best interest of anyone else to change that for us. We must change it. And that's what we are doing, my partner, WOWstrather, and I, to the best of our ability. Parrish, I have a hard stop here. I have a client calling me that scheduled a meeting with me for 11 o'clock.
I'm sorry, we can wrap this up for now, and we can come back in another day, and then we can finish up this conversation.
Okay, let's do that, Parrish.
Yeah, this is enlightening. Hey, thank you for your time, Mr. Shelton.
My pleasure.
And we'll do this again, okay?
Okay, take care.
All right.